You can join the show by texting 916-339-1140
on Sactown Sports.
I told y'all not to move. It is a Westbrook extravaganza, and we are joined by Anthony Slater, who covers the NBA for ESPN. First time having you on since the ESPN gig, Slater. I know it was a couple months ago, but got to throw out congrats to you. I've known you for a while, so got to throw out that congrats to you. Appreciate you taking the time, man. I know you're running around.
Yeah, I'm feeling old, man. I flew this morning at like 6-something a.m. out of Portland, and I'm feeling it. It's like, you know, this is my 13th year covering the league. I actually covered Russell Westbrook my first few.
Yeah.
And I just like a 2-game preseason trip to LA and Portland is starting to get to me. I'm like, that's a concern.
I mean, what do you mean by that though? The flying, is it the seat, right? You're just a little, are you just tired or are you sore? What's going on?
All the above. And then, you know, I'm trying to make it out tonight to this Kings preseason game, and I'm like, the back-to-back, I'm like dreading how, you know, I'm like, what time do I have to leave to get to the arena? But, you know, again, this is me complaining about getting old, but I guess it's a good transition because, you know, what year's Russell Westbrook in? Because I was covering him early in his career, and he's still kicking.
Yeah, be 37 in November. So, look, Slater, if he can play in the NBA, you can hop on some planes, all right?
And, I know. I'm whining.
And thanks for hopping on the show, of course. Look, let's start here. Obviously, this was being talked about all off season. It finally happens. Do you think this is something that would have happened, or was it all connected to the Jonathan Kuminga stuff? Because we heard about both going on at the same time, and I made the joke, the Uno joke, either sign Keegan Murray to an extension or draw 20, and the Kings just continue to keep doing other things. Do you think that this would have happened if they added Kuminga, or was it an either-or situation?
I think it's all about the dominoes. You know, you mentioned Uno, but, you know, board games, right?
Yeah.
Just like any type of move, you know, creates a different reaction. You know, the Kings' business was held up by, you know, the team I cover, you know, most prominently, just having their entire business held up by Kuminga. He held up so much. And the Kings, to the finish line, still had a belief, even if it was like a 5%, 10% belief that they could maybe steal Kuminga away. And through part of that, I mean, we all know, you know, Malik Monk was shopped around the summer. Devin Carter was in conversations. And I think not only would that have created a smoother opening for Russell Westbrook to definitely come through, but also, you know, you never know what the money looks like and what type of money he could have sought out. I know that was, for example, the situation in Golden State where, depending on what happened with Kuminga's sign-and-trade qualifying offer or the deal he took, that was going to affect what Al Horford could ultimately make. That was going to affect the type of years DeAnthony Melton could have on his minimum deal. So it's just like the business side is often held up by other people in the league.
Talking to Anthony Slater, who covers the NBA for ESPN. Anthony, does this feel like more of a culture thing? I know there have been reports about the backup point guard, and we'll talk about Malik in a little bit, but does this feel like more of a culture thing? Let's bring a dog into the building, or do they think, no, Russell Westbrook is going to help us win, I don't know, 5, 7, dare I say 10 games this season?
I mean, both kind of, right? I mean, they would hope like a culture shift would be additive in the win column. It at least like provides more juice to the whole situation, right? I mean, I think you do the radio show every day, especially with them striking out on the Kuminga chase. Like there felt like a little bit of a dullness around the situation. And I'm not saying Russell Westbrook jolts a credible amount of life to it, but I feel like, you know, there'll be 5 to 6 home games in Golden One this year where, you know, he'll maybe get a little hot streak going, be kind of like roaring at the crowd after one of his like throwback flashback dunks. I mean, again, I sat in courtside in Oklahoma City on the scorer's table for 4 years watching him just erupt that arena on an almost nightly basis. And of course he does not do that anymore, but he might do that for 5-minute spurts 8 times this year. And that's, I guess, better than if he wasn't around. Again, I don't think it materially changes their playoff outlook much.
Yeah.
But the entertainment factor probably just got a little bit better.
You know, I just thought about this as I'm talking to you here. One of your colleagues, Ramona Shelburne, she put out that piece on Russell Westbrook during the playoffs in Denver. And like I said, this was just off the top of my head. I'm thinking, Anthony, just as far as what if he doesn't get playing time and there's positives and negatives? What do you know about that situation? And I guess what could go bad for the Kings, which everyone is saying that the Kings are okay with taking this chance. But if he's not playing enough, he played 27 minutes on the Nuggets. And they still had these issues. If he's not playing enough, what is the cause to pause that is maybe why other teams said, you know what, I think I'm good off Russell Westbrook?
Yeah, well, number one, he's a minimum deal, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, if it really goes haywire, like it's a low cost to just, split from it if needed. Now, what you bring up is fair. I would say his last three stops, from what you gather, it didn't end terrifically, right? Lakers, Clippers, Nuggets. He had a player option in his Nuggets deal and opted to walk away. It was a very interesting playoffs, right? Because you could probably point to 3 games that Russell Westbrook really helped the Nuggets win in the playoffs, and 3 games he helped them lose in a lot of ways. And even dating to the Malone firing, remember a couple of the losses late in Malone's tenure where he had the foul and the 3 guy, guy shooting a 3 in the corner after he'd bricked the layup, and there was clearly some internal angst going on there, and the fact that he chose to walk away from a guaranteed deal and back into free agency where, nothing seemed in cement, that probably tells you something about how that ended. But, I mentioned it. It's it's a minimum deal. It's low cost. To me, the problem, if you go back to his Lakers tenure when he was still on the big mega contract that he had signed from the Thunder, that's a bigger issue when one of your main core pieces is unsettled or unhappy, because those are harder contracts to move. And it's just, if $30 million per year type player is, either not contributing or causing issues like that can really sink a team.
Talking to Anthony Slater, who covers the NBA for ESPN. Just a couple more for you, Slate, because I know you're running around. Let's discuss Malik Monk. So you were in the fold here because Malik Monk was talked about as it pertains to the Golden State Warriors and the Kuminga deal. Does this affect the value of Malik Monk? And as the conversation comes up for the backup point guard position and how the Kings felt that they needed one, is he viewed as not a point guard, period? Or does this feel like a Kings thing where they don't like the way he plays the position?
I mean, he's a 2.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, Russ kind of is, too, at this point. Dennis Schroeder, I wouldn't even call a pure point. I know that's that they went into the offseason talking about getting a pure point. And, Schroeder, maybe of the 3 of those, is kind of a little bit more pass first, but he's ball dominant. I mean, the entire Kings roster is. Mm-hmm. It's kind of the fit issue, but so I mean, the league doesn't view Malik Monk as a run the team type point guard. They view him as a 6-man scorer, which obviously he's kind of bristled against over the last few years and tried to get himself into the starting lineup. Did get himself in the starting lineup as the point guard post De'Aaron Fox, but how did that go? I think, we all watched the end of last season. So, contract-wise, depending on, I could see a team talking themselves into, if they really need some score and punch off the bench, Monk being at least, even value if he has a pretty good couple months going into the deadline. But, the reality is, if we're talking about the Warriors situation, they didn't want him. They didn't want that contract. It was almost a non-starter, for Malik Monk to be the returning salary. They're interested in picks. They're interested in intriguing young guys. They just weren't interested in Malik Monk with the 3 years left on his deal, including the player option in the 3rd season, which, by the way, they wouldn't give to Kuminga for that season, right? So that it's also, we're in the second apron world. It's changed so much. I mean, I think we all know that. We don't need to get into CBA dynamics, but those mid-tier contracts are just viewed, spookier to teams right now because everybody's trying to get their books tighter.
Yeah. The last one for you, talking to Anthony Slater, who covers the NBA for ESPN. And we know he covers that team out there in the Bay. But last one for you, Slater. Should Kings fans be worried that the Kings organization might be happy in the play-in again? Because that's my whole thing. A lot of people are upset at this signing, but my thought process is, hey, you're gonna get to January. If this team stinks the same way a lot of fans think they will stink, then they blow it up. They go get a top 4 pick in a really strong 2026 draft, and you go from there. There's no problem in my world, but should they be worried that the Kings might be 9-10 and they say, no, we're going to hold on, dare I say, maybe even try to add and just get stuck in that 9-10 purgatory again?
I mean, they're in the purgatory. They got a new GM who, at this point, Scott Perry, it seems like they're going to give him a runway here to like rebuild it in his image, and should give him time for that because you know it's a cleanup job. I just don't know how they immediately get out of the purgatory because like you got a lot of veterans who are not going to want to sit there and have like a tank type season. They're going to want to try to compete and win on a nightly basis and believe, not only could they maybe get in the play-in, but they could make some noise. So you're going to give them this early runway. Also, like Doug Christie's coaching, like in a lot of ways, like for his future, right? Like this is a trial run for Doug Christie. Like, and Kings fans want to go out to the arena over the next several months and like, watch a team that is coming out with some ferocity and some desire to like, up their own careers, but also, win home games. And I think that's okay. You mentioned like maybe a pivot point come January, February, in a crowded West. If you pivot at the right time, like you said, you can get yourself down. Dallas gets Cooper Flagg. That's the other thing with the flattened lottery odds, right? Like Dallas beat the Kings in the play-in game last year, and we're sitting very late in the lottery and got Cooper Flagg, which is crazy in its own right. So you don't have to be a bottom 3 record to get a top 3 pick in the NBA. You just gotta get lucky. Number one. And 2, like it's just you can't move off a lot of these contracts very easily that are stuck on the Kings books. So I don't even know how, unless you're just going to deactivate all your veterans who would not want to be deactivated at the start of the season. I don't really know how you pivot to being a Utah Jazz, because just look at the Jazz's rotation to start the season.
Right. Talking to Anthony Slater. Great stuff, Anthony. We appreciate you taking the time. I know you got a plane to catch. Look, you ESPN now. You ain't on the G5 jet. What's going on, Slater? I mean, I'm just saying, dude. You got the leg room first. They got your first class now?
Hey, a G5 jet is still, you got to get to the airport on time. You got to sit in the seat. They don't give you the beds. Not many G5 jets going Portland to Sac to catch a back-to-back. You going to be out at the arena tonight?
I'm not. Look, well, I haven't talked to you. I got baby number 2 now, so I'm not. I'm a regular season cat right now. I'm a regular season cat. She's only a month. She's only a month, so I'll be out there though.
All right. I'll see you early in the season.
All right, man. Appreciate you. That's Anthony Slater of ESPN. Thank you for taking the time. When we return, we are keeping the conversation going. Brendan Nunes might hop on in here. The Kings pick up Devin Carter's option. What does Will Z Stats thinks that means for his future? And whoever else might pop up on the show. Allen Stiles, Sactown Sports.
This is the story of the one.